Alright guys, this is station 4.4. This is the stuff we most recently did, which was on trigonometry. So you should remember this for sure. I don't know what's happening here. Hold on a sec. Let's make sure this works. Okay. So remember, the first thing you want to do is write SOHCAHTOA at the top of your paper, because these are all the trigonometry ones. So make sure you spell it correctly. That's the first step. Okay, once you have SOHCAHTOA at the top of your paper, then you want to label your sides, right? So we go across from the right angle. That's always our hypotenuse. And then look at what angle we're starting at. So for these ones, you're all starting at A, which means I start here and go across. That's opposite. And the one right next to it is adjacent. So to find the sine, it's asking for sine, which is O over H. So I just take O, which is 6, over H, which is 10. And then I have to reduce that on my calculator. Remember, we always have to reduce on your calculator. So my first answer is 3/5. For cosine, it's asking me to do adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent was 8, hypotenuse is 10, and then I reduce it on my calculator. Answer is 4/5. For tangent, it is O over A, as I see up here. So O is 6, A is 8, and I reduce that to get 3/4. So those are my first three answers. Now for the second one, you've got to do sine of B. So I'm going to erase this stuff that I had on here originally. And we're now, that too, going to go to B. So I have to now start from B for all of these. And I go to opposite, adjacent. Hypotenuse still stays the same. So that is still there with no difference. Okay, so now when you do each of these, opposite over hypotenuse, adjacent over hypotenuse, opposite over adjacent, when you plug those in, you'd be using from angle B now. Use this down here as O, then A and H. So I'll let you guys finish that one on your own. When you get down to number 2, the issue is you can do all this. It's sine of S, cosine of S, and tangent of S. So you start at S, and go across, you get opposite, adjacent, but then what you realize that the hypotenuse isn't here. So we need to go back to our prior knowledge. In order to find this missing side, we have to do Pythagorean theorem. So you have to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And you have to work that out with the equals c squared. So you have to work this out with Pythagorean theorem. So A and B, remember, are my two legs. You just did this yesterday. And then hypotenuse we don't know. So then I'll work this out. And don't forget to take the square root. So I get that c equals 13. So now I know this side is 13. And that's my hypotenuse. Now it's not a question mark anymore, okay? So I've got opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. I can now answer all of these questions, right? Opposite over hypotenuse would be 12 over 13. Okay, and same thing. Now from here, when you get to this side, notice, that all of these are from R. So you're going to have to start from R and go across that way to get opposite and adjacent, okay? But you should be able to do those on your own. All right, moving down. At the bottom of the page, this you should all be able to do on your own. Just make sure you know what angle you're starting from. So if it says A, you got to start from angle A, all right? So if it says A, start from A. If it says A, start from A. And then just do each one and make sure simplest form so you're reducing all your fractions. Okay, on the back, these were the ones that were a little more complicated, so I'll walk you through it. This is where you had an angle, and you would start from that angle, again, just like always, opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse, okay? And then you ask yourself, well, which one is it? So we always write SOHCAHTOA. And then we have to ask ourselves, which one of these three are we going to use? Are we going to do sine, cosine, or tangent? Well, let's see what we have here. We've got an A and we've got an H, right? The one we don't know is we don't know O. So I really just have A and H. So I look up top and I see, well, which one of these just has A and H, and I notice that it's cosine. So I am going to use cosine, and I do of that angle equals, now it's adjacent over hypotenuse, so it'd be 12 over x. This is where you have to type that in your calculator. So I type in cos 20, and I get a decimal, 0.9397 something. We write that over 1, and then remember this is where we cross multiply. So I'll have 0.9397x equals 12 times 1, which is just 12. And then I have to divide, and you guys were really good at these, so you'll remember it. I hope. Use your calculators. And as long as you get an answer that's pretty close to that, 12.77, you should be fine. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. As long as you're close, you're good. It's probably just about rounding if you did something a little different. Okay, so you can go back and finish B, C, and D. Let's go to the bottom of the page with the word problems. This is the same idea. Here you're just going to draw the picture, set up the equation, and solve it. So I'm going to start by drawing a picture. I've got a 23-foot ladder. 23, that's my ladder. Leaning up against the wall. It's always 90 degrees here. The ladder makes an angle of 76. So angles are always on the inside. That's the angle. And what are we trying to find? How high up the wall the ladder will reach. So that's this side over here. Okay, so just like before, we have to figure out, are we going to use sine, cosine, or tangent? What do we have, right? So I have to figure out what I have. Well, I've got this side and this side. So what are those, right? Well, that one here is opposite, and this one here is hypotenuse. So I have opposite and hypotenuse. So looking at my options, there's opposite and hypotenuse. Okay, so that's the one we're going to use. We're going to use sine. I do sine of 76. Opposite on top, so that's x, over 23. In your calculator, do sine of 76, 0.9703. I think I rounded that. And then I'll cross multiply. And when I cross multiply, I get times 23, right? So 22.32, if you round it, equals 1x. Divide by 1, it's just 22.32. And we're talking about feet for this one. And there's my answer. Okay, so go back if this video went too fast. You can pause it, rewind it, do it again. Take your time to copy down stuff. If I'm going too fast and you need to copy it on your paper, then go back and redo it. Now go back and finish all the other questions and then submit it to me on Schoology. All right, we have our test on all this next week. So this will be your last review before our test. We'll do questions on Monday, and then I think the test is on Tuesday. All right, hope you have a good day.